I'd like to share with you this video entitled Learning to Trust Again. This video is about retrusting, which is a very big topic, particularly for me in working with couples on a regular basis, because oftentimes trust has been broken within marital couples, and we find that happens frequently, and many struggle with learning to trust again. I wanted to talk about some of the elements and dynamics that go into and what are needed for trusting again. All of us have experienced having our trust broken at one time or another in our lives. And we have been lied to, cheated on, betrayed, talked about behind our backs, used, abused. People have failed us, dropped us, rejected us. We have been burned, let down, a target of unexpected reactivity, and pushed away when we needed to be embraced. All of these type of experiences can create trust issues, where we don't feel trusting of others, or we don't feel trusting of the world around us. These events in our lives create a fear of trusting, and a lot of people come and ask for help with how can I learn to trust again, or ask the question, can I ever trust again? The level of mistrust we experience depends upon how frequent, how painful, how vulnerable, or how toxic the betrayal was in our lives. Often trust issues are stubborn to heal because our mistrust events are layered within us. In other words, we have had mistrust events that have occurred from very early in our life to the middle parts of our lives to currently. And so we have layers of mistrust. Stubborn mistrust can exist because we experience betrayal of those we trusted in our childhood. Physical abuse, sexual abuse, or even simply just not being able to feel supported by a parent when we have had struggles, and we felt betrayed when we haven't been supported and needed that. So often childhood presents us with mistrust events. Second of all, repeating of these experiences in our adolescence or early adulthood. We were cheated on or lied to or betrayed, made fun of by those we trusted, all kinds of events in which mistrust was involved or betrayal. And these repetitions build on the earlier mistrust events that occurred in our lives. And then thirdly, when people come to see me, they've had a current or present betrayal, something that has just happened in their marriage or in their lives or at work. And we have a repetition again of the mistrust events in our current relationships, and that could be from parents, from spouses, from our children. And because of those events, people have come in to seek counseling or seek help. So now we're talking about 3 layers of mistrusting events in our lives. So when our spouse cheats on us, we experience a lifetime of betrayal and hurt. And that's why it's often so very painful. Because when we have been betrayed, we then hook into all the other previous betrayals that have not been healed within our lives. So how do I heal my trust issues? How do I learn to trust again? What elements are needed to learn to trust again? Or what processes are needed? And I thought I would share some of those with you in this video today. And I call this process, this is the learning to retrust. Often the reason we get all caught up in betrayal dramas and those betrayal events in our lives is because we are missing in us things that are important prior to the betrayal happening. In other words, we haven't been prepared. We have missed certain elements that are needed that in some ways might be prophylactic or keep betrayals from happening in our lives. First of all, low self-worth attracts untrustworthiness in others. And I think that's a maxim that I think is important. When you have been hurt or betrayed, often that tells me something about you. Not that you caused the betrayal, not that you wanted the betrayal to happen, not that you caused your betrayer to go betray you, but it does tell me something about you. And often it tells me that there are things missing in your sense of self that are not there and needed for you to have a healthy life. Second of all, mistrust attracts misworthy behavior. When we look to others to resolve our trust issues, this is a setup for trouble. And oftentimes we get married or try to find a spouse who can help resolve our trust issues within us. That leads to problems. It leads often to more mistrust or betrayal within the relationship. And so we cannot expect trust issues to be fixed by someone else. Second of all, levels of self-care and self-differentiation must change for retrusting to occur or for retrusting to happen. Often our self-care, our self-worth, our self-esteem, and our level of self-differentiation, who we are as ourselves, are too low. And because they're too low, we find ourselves falling into betrayal dramas in our lives. And it's very important for those levels to change for betrayal to begin to cease in your life. And that requires you doing your work on your sense of self-worth, your self-image, your self-care, and your self-differentiation. And to do that brings about a more healthy, trusting experience in your life. Often we focus on the betrayer to change so we can trust again, while others need to behave in trustworthy ways, certainly. This is not the best focus. In other words, when we have been betrayed, focusing on the betrayer for learning to trust again is often not a good road or a good path to learn to trust again. Thirdly, I use this phrase, the solution is not near the problem. Learning to trust again and a focus, it is important that we learn to trust again by focusing on past betrayals and childhood patterns and pain versus our current betrayal. In other words, heal these first so you can begin to heal a current betrayal. Classic example. A couple comes in, there's been cheating occur in the relationship. Focusing on the only focusing on the betrayal and the cheating often ends up more problematic and causing more difficulties than if we go back and begin to heal earlier betrayals. Then we can bring someone up to the place where they can deal with and handle more healthily a current betrayal. And then it can begin to be released and loosened, and we have more freedom to let it go. If we have layers of unhealed mistrust or betrayal, it is very difficult to deal with the current level of betrayal or mistrust. When addressing your current betrayal, move through the feelings of anger and blame. It's important that we begin to work on moving through those feelings. We are going to have anger. We are going to feel blame. And to move through those feelings can help us begin to trust again. Move towards forgiving the one that has hurt you and forgiving yourself for any failings to protect yourself. Those two elements, I think, are important for learning to retrust. Learning to trust again comes with boundaries. Now, that doesn't mean cut off, or I'm not going to relate to other people, or I'm not going to have intimate relationships. Because it is important that for intimacy to occur, we need trusting and we need boundaries. We need both for healthy intimacy. Self-care and self-differentiation always includes boundaries. Always. So that's a healthy part of relationships. Boundaryness, having no boundaries, does not equal trust. And I think sometimes we get that confused. I think it's important when someone's learning to trust again that they seek out individual therapy and group therapy. Those are very good processes that can help someone learn to trust again and be healthy and whole. Do not choose trusting no one as the solution for unhealed trust issues. Sometimes we can take a cut-off approach. Well, I just don't need anybody. I'm not going to trust anybody, and that'll solve I'm not going to get betrayed again, and I'm not going to have hurts again in the area of mistrust or trust. That is not a good solution. Also, I've also found that just because one takes a cut-off approach, that avoids betrayal and mistrust dramas. It really doesn't. It also keeps us on an island and isolated, which is not healthy or good for us. The stronger our sense of self, the less likely we are to be drawn or attracted to betrayal drama in our lives. And it will be less attracted to us. It won't come to us. If we're have more of a sense of self and more self-care, it doesn't come our way as much. The more we strengthen our self-differentiation, the more room we create for a healthy balance of trust and self-care. I can take care of myself while also being connected to and trusting someone else. I can do both. And learning to do both is very important for learning to retrust. The less enmeshed and emotionally dependent we are on others, the easier it is to forgive and to trust others. Oftentimes, enmeshment and being emotionally dependent on others creates an environment in which mistrust and betrayal can occur. So reducing fusion, reducing emotional enmeshment, and being overly needy emotionally can reduce repeating trust dramas and also allowing us to trust again. The bottom line is trust issues and retrusting are more about healing the self rather than focusing on the betrayal or the betrayer. And I really think that's very important, that we focus on healing ourselves. That can bring us to a place of having freedom to trust again. If you have any questions or you want to make comments, please do so on YouTube. Also, you can join our channel. I want to thank you for listening. Contact me if I can be of help. Have a great day.
As adults, when parents treat us like children, there are three things we need to do. Grow up versus changing them. Second of all, train them how to treat you respectfully. Thirdly, shift the discomfort from you to them without reactivity. Number one, growing up without changing them. Often people want to change their parents to get them to stop treating them like a child. Many parents don't want to give up that role. They don't like that role, or they've done it for so many years, they don't even know what it's like to not do that role of parent. We don't need parents anymore when we're adults. We can have family, we can have mothers and fathers, but parenting we should grow out of needing. Be the adult. Learn new responses as an adult to your parent who is continuing to kind of treat you in a childlike way. Focus on changing you versus, saying, well, I hate it, Mom and Dad, when you treat me like I'm a child. I'm 35 years old. That doesn't train them anything. It sends them a message, but it says it upsets you. It keeps the same old patterns going because when we have that reactivity, we're now acting like a child again. When I go, I hate it when you treat me like a child. That's how a child sounds. And so we're just telling them we are still children. Let's not do that anymore because that will only continue the pattern. When parents often say, well, we do this because I just care about you. Well, we can respond, well, I know you do, and I think you do care about me, but I think I've got this. And we send that message. That's not reactivity, and I'm acting like an adult. We also can inform them and alert them that I'm going to be acting more like in an adult way. Mom and Dad, you may begin to see me taking more responsibility for things like my relationships, my finances, my life choices, and gosh, guys, I'm sure it's tough giving up being a parent. And if you're an adult, say 35 or 40 or whatever, and you've been a parent, it is hard to give up the role of parent. That's not an easy thing. That's our job to grow up as parents. Our children's job is to grow up to be adults. Our job is to grow up to let go of that parental role with them. Mom may ask, well, I want you to come and bring that dish we all like on Sunday when you get here. Well, Mom, I haven't decided if I'm coming yet. And with my busy schedule, it may be tough to bring that dish. Now, again, she may resist, but keep that broken record. Keep that same statement going. A parent may also say, you like your hair that way? I think I'd consider a change, Jerry or Susie or whoever it is. Actually, I'm fine with it, Dad. You have worried about how I look for so many years. I know it may bother you, but it doesn't really bother me. And if we can learn to say that in a calm adult way, that's going to help mature the relationship rather than being reactive, which is only reinforcing that I'm a child and you're getting to me. And that's exactly the point of parentifying or being a parent or overparenting. Is that I still have control, or you still matter to me, or I still matter to you, and we should care, and so I need to be over-involved in your life. It doesn't bother me that my hair is this way, but it may bother you. I'm sorry to hear that. Choose adult responses over reactivity. Reactivity, as I've mentioned, keeps the same pattern going. Now, some will say, well, I just ignore them. Well, sometimes it's okay to ignore. Sometimes we just do. We ignore things and we just let it pass. But if we ignore it because we're uncomfortable or feel childlike inside, then that's the other side of reactivity. Reactivity that's very aggressive, the Viking, or reactivity that's the victim. Well, I'll just ignore it. There's no sense confronting them about that. And so I'll just act like it never was said. And so we want to watch and be careful about ignoring and being a Viking and being aggressive, because ignoring can be childlike too. Now, we can ignore as an adult, but make sure you're ignoring as an adult, not ignoring as a child. That, yeah, I know Mom says that, and my mom will, She used to do things, for example, my mom lived longer than my father, so that's why I often talk about mom. And she may say things, and I would grant her and give her the gift of ignoring it. But give the gift of ignoring. Don't ignore because you don't know what to do with it, and you're just tired of it and frustrated, and then you just ignore. Intentional harms me less than reactive or neurotic, or that's going to harm me. And basic bottom line, act your age. Begin to act your age with your parents. Secondly, train others or train your parents how to treat you and how to treat you respectfully. Instruct them about what you wish to discuss with them and what you don't. For example, here might be some no's if they tend to be enmeshed and they're just all in your life and feel like they can ask you about anything and anywhere. Well, how often have you, made love with your boyfriend? I mean, sometimes parents will even get that personal and that enmeshed. Here would be some no's then that I might want to put up. Mom and Dad, my relationship with my siblings would be a no, unless I bring it up. Because I have my relationship with them and I have my relationship with you. My relationship with the other parent. Mom, I don't want to talk to you about Dad. Dad, I don't want to talk to you about Mom. I want to keep that boundary. Finances, appearance, relationships, life choices, decor, shopping purchases, all of these things that parents will get in and continue to parent. Dad will be concerned about what car I'm going to buy and how much it's going to cost. And mom may be concerned with you about the dress you choose or the makeup you wear or all those kinds of things. Well, those are non-discussables. Those are not going to be topics we're going to be talking about unless I bring it up or ask for your advice. In living with my mom for quite a while at the end of her life to try to save the family home and keep her in the home, I would go and buy groceries. Well, I would buy them and I would pay for those groceries. And when I cared for her, and every time I got home, she would come from out the other side of the house and come over and observe the unpacking of the groceries so that she could comment on all the groceries that I bought. And I would have to just about justify every purchase. Well, that was frustrating and felt intrusive and enmeshing. And I didn't like that. And she's still parenting because she would say things like, well, we already have bread, Jerry. Why did you get this? You got another jar of peanut butter? There's a jar of peanut butter in the pantry, Jerry. Finally, I had to ask, Mom, I'd like you to stay in your den until I get all the groceries put away. Then you can come out and check and see what I bought or whatever you want to do, but I'm not going to talk about the grocery shopping. I've paid for them. They're my choices. If we have too many jars of peanut butter, that's on me, and I'll be happy to pay that expense. Also, we may want to, at times with friends, family, parents, particularly people who are kind of intrusive, and parenting tends to be intrusive for adults, we want to give them even a script to help them see what they're saying to us and understand that better. My mom would say, Jerry, you have to get your taxes done. Federal taxes and things like that, which I hate doing, and it's such a hassle. And I would put it off. There are some things I'm a procrastinator about. Many things I stay on, some things I can procrastinate. And I remember saying to Mom, I think what you meant to say, Mom, was your taxes, Jerry, are yours to worry about. But I feel anxious about it for you. But they are yours to worry about. And I would say something like that to her. And that would be non-reactive. I'd say it calmly. Now, what if we have narcissistic parents and some of these softer setting of boundaries just don't work very well? Then we have to get more intense. And I mean intense in a positive adult way, not intense in a reactive way. With narcissistic parents, we may need to set really firm boundaries and say things like, Dad, that is my decision. Mom, that's not something that I have asked for your opinion. I will make that decision. And we may say, if they discuss our weight or our appearance, well, Mom, my weight is between me and my doctor. I'm not going to talk any more about my weight with you. And so we have to set firm boundaries at times that's not going to be discussable. That's not something we're going to discuss. Not because I couldn't discuss it with other people, but I don't want to discuss it with somebody in whom it matters too much. They're enmeshed, they're parenting, they're intrusive. Then I don't want to talk to them. Now, maybe my friend Andy, I'll talk to about my weight with him. It's no problem. But he doesn't have a whole life investment in it, like my mother or father or sister or brother. And so lastly, we may have to turn up the heat. If they are not teachable or get the hint or respect your boundaries, then we must shift the polarity or shift the discomfort from us to them without being reactive. That's a crucial thing. I want to shift the discomfort from us to them without being reactive. And I think we want to shift that polarity, because with the narcissistic parent, the polarity is shifted back this way. They do things which upset us. I want to shift that and go, I want to be me, which may upset you, but that's your choice. I don't want it shifted the other way. So I want to turn that shift of polarity, of emotional functioning, the emotional current between us. An example, if you criticize my husband one more time, I will have to choose to see you or talk to you less. Or the common statement I have used, does it still bother you that I married Karen? Yes. Well, it doesn't bother me. And it's not going to bother me until it bothers me. And it will be my bothering, not yours. Oh, Jerry, I wish you would have never taken that job. Since it is my job to deal with, I don't understand your distress. It's my job to deal with, and I'm not distressed like you are. So I don't understand why you are so distressed. And you may have to deal with that distress. And hey, there are counselors out there for you to talk to deal with that distress. Or if it bothers you that I married Karen, there are coaches and counselors out there who would be happy to help you with that bothering. But I'm not the one. A classic one I remember from years ago, when are you going to potty train Andrew, my son? And I don't know why you guys just let him go without being potty trained. Well, I don't think it's good to potty train somebody at, 9 months old. I'm being facetious. It wasn't 9 months, but I mean, far earlier than I felt was comfortable. When are you going to potty train Andrew? When my parent sense says I'm ready. If you don't want to watch him because you have to change his diapers, there's a solution for that, Mom. Do you want that solution? You just won't be watching him then. I shift the discomfort from me to them non-reactively. Now she'll have to deal with her decisions. She can still continue to think I'm not potty training him soon enough. But if she keeps this up, she's not going to be able to see Andrew because she's not behaving well and she's not respecting my parenting of my own child. Notice the discomfort shifts to them without being reactive, which often, many times they may ignore, so we may have to do it a number of times for them to get the point. And of course, if they never get the point, then we have to separate and get some more distance between us. Low contact to no contact. We can, there can be sort of contact in a low contact way. But again, the discomfort then falls on them, not on me. If I feel discomfort by going no contact because I have to, then I need to talk to someone about that discomfort, not to the narcissistic parent or who we're needing to go no contact with. Reactivity means you got me. And so whenever we're reactive, whatever they were doing got us. And then we get into that childlike state. Being adult means we deal with it in an adult way. And I use the word, what would Betty do? What would Betty say to Mom in this situation, who's the neighbor, who I considered an adult and neutral? What would she do in this situation? I want to be an adult in an adult way. Hey, I hope you'll subscribe, comment, We comment back on your comments that you make. I also do shorts or short videos responding to comments of people who ask questions high up in the comment, and I can respond to some of those, and I think you've been seeing some of those on the channel. Please subscribe to the channel, join our website as well, and thank you for watching. Have a great day, and be wise.
Hi, my name is Jerry Wise, and I'm a relationship expert and the director of the Center for Self-Differentiation. I work with clients in my office, and I work with clients via the internet, and I produce these videos for my clients and for people who are seeking help. This video is entitled Adult Children of Narcissistic Parents. Many clients come to me and ask these questions, and maybe you've asked some of these questions yourself. Why do I struggle so much with self-acceptance? Why am I critical of myself all of the time? Why do I feel I can never measure up? Why do I feel I will never be able to measure up in my marriage, to my spouse, at my job, and whenever I make mistakes? Why do I question all of my decisions? Why do I have frozen or numb feelings, or I feel too much, and my feelings feel so very sensitive and overwhelming and too reactive? Why do I try so hard to deal with my family and my parents, my boss, my spouse, who never seem to accept me? Why don't I ever feel I'm loved unconditionally by somewhere, someplace, somebody? Why do I find and fall in love with narcissistic partners? And why do I choose friends who are more focused on themselves than they are the friendship or on me? My life seems to work, but it's not a happy life. Or it's not a life with joy and love and peace and stability that I've seen in some other people. There always seems to be conflict and arguments, and I'm always trying to be a peacemaker. Some have asked, well, Jerry, where does my codependency come from? And I'm going to come back to that in a moment. Many people ask these questions also experience codependency, and I've worked with codependents for many, many years. But they might ask, well, where does my codependency come from? My parents were not alcoholic. They did not beat me every day. Our family was generally successful, and our family seemed very tight-knit growing up. So how did I obtain these struggles inside myself? Often these are some of the signs of growing up with narcissistic parents or a narcissistic parent. So you might ask, well, what do narcissistic parents look like? What do they feel like? What do they behave like? Well, first of all, shame is at the core of narcissism. Low self-esteem, inadequacy, and having an idealized self. You might say, but narcissists seem the opposite of all those things. They seem to have very, very high view of themselves, very high self-esteem, over-adequate, and they actually live their ideal life. Yes, it seems like that. But remember, someone does not need to be a narcissist if they feel adequate and self-accepting and have a strong sense of self. If you have those three things, you have no need to be narcissistic or act or behave narcissistically. But they don't have those components. So they project these problems onto others. Their friends, co-workers, spouses, and certainly their children. But they do it in a very self-absorbed way. Now, there are some parents that have true narcissistic personality disorder. Some parents just have many traits of narcissism. So narcissism is on a continuum. It's on a line. Narcissistic personality disorder all the way down to a few narcissistic traits. But regardless of where someone's at on that spectrum, there are effects on the children. And the effects are very similar. So what do narcissistic parents look like? These are not all of the traits of narcissistic parents, but here are some important ones. A narcissistic parent is extremely shameless on the outside and exquisitely shame-sensitive on the inside, which is the trigger for all their feelings of superiority, belittling, contempt, anger, many times abuse of others, and particularly of their own children. A narcissistic parent has a fantasy self. It is an idealized self, which keeps reaffirming their superiority to others and to their children. Now, it's not a real self, it's a fantasy self, and they just feel superior to everyone and to their children. Children never measure up and can never be like their parents because their parents, or the narcissistic parent, is superior. The narcissistic parent demonstrates envy and contempt of others and the world. They are always judging and evaluating themselves in contrast to others. The narcissistic parent has a sense of entitlement, and when something doesn't happen just as they feel it should happen, they deep down feel powerless, and it hits their deep core of shame. Then they can have the internal rage of a 1-year-old, only now they're an adult. So it becomes the internal rage of an adult. But it feels very immature, like a 1-year-old, when the narcissist has their shame triggered and has the world as they planned it not go as it should be planned. It's like the narcissistic mother who is planning the wedding for her daughter. The wedding is completely for the mother, not for the daughter. The mother has very little empathy or feels for her daughter at all. And then something goes wrong with the planning, and the mother is completely furious, outraged, upset, as though it was her wedding that's being ruined. It's her daughter's. It's not her wedding that's being ruined, but it's all very personal for her because things didn't go as planned. So now her perfect view of what was supposed to happen is not going to happen, and now she feels contempt. She feels she's hooked into her shame. Now she can't talk about all that, but it just comes out in anger, resentment, and often people get punished for making mistakes in those kind of situations. While the daughter bride is sitting off by herself, almost not involved whatsoever in the wedding. Because mom, the narcissistic parent, it's all about her. It's totally all about her. The daughter just plays a supporting role in the narcissistic parent's plans and in their wedding. The narcissistic parent is not empathetic. They don't recognize the feelings of others. They tend to use others without regard to their feelings. For example, the mother, and just using this example, it could be father, son, it could be just mother, daughter, and a wedding, an event such as that. And the mother decides, well, we're going to use this caterer because they're the best caterer in the whole tri-state region. And so we want to be seen as superior and better, so we're going to use this caterer. And heaven forbid that caterer better do it right. That's all I've got to say, or mom will be a mess. Now, maybe the daughter wants something different for catering, but that doesn't matter. Her feelings, wants, and desires don't matter at all. Dear, honey, we have to have it this way. It's just the way it has to be. That's the narcissistic parent coming out.
And if the daughter would say, "No, Mom, I don't want to do that," Mom would be crushed. Her ego, shame would be touched, shame would be triggered, ego would be felt insecure, and Mom would flip out until the daughter came around to Mom's side. They just don't understand why people cannot do what they want and need, the narcissistic parent. They are oblivious to the feelings of others. So what do we do as children of narcissistic parents? How do we heal? How do we function? How do we grow up? How do we affirm our sense of self when for so many years it was never even considered in the formula? Number one, begin your process of discarding your own needs for the narcissistic parent. Begin to heal and deal with your own dependency needs from long ago, so the narcissistic parent cannot trigger those. Believe it or not, it is possible. Your neediness keeps you enmeshed and locked into the narcissist. If we're still enmeshed with a narcissistic parent, we do not possess a strong sense of self yet. We have not grown up yet. This work of self-differentiation is critical for adult children of narcissistic parents. This is the process of letting them go emotionally versus physically. So many want to let go of them physically. Well, we lived in Connecticut, but I'm going to move out to California so I don't have to deal with my narcissistic mom and dad. Well, the problem is the narcissistic mom and dad go with you internally out to California. We want to let them go emotionally. We don't necessarily have to move 2,000 miles away. 2, setting boundaries and setting limits. Begin to learn what is your abstinence from the narcissistic parent. What are your limits? You have the right to choose them. They aren't going to change, so we must. So as an adult, what are my limits for their behavior? And what do I need to do either to pull back or to set up fences so I begin to deal with boundaries with the narcissistic parent? 3, not every parent who shows traits of narcissistic personality disorder are fully narcissistic personality disorder parents. There are softer versions, such as the self-focused parent, the oblivious parent, the non-empathetic parent, or maybe a parent who is all three of those, but maybe not fully NPD. There's nothing more frustrating than trying to get needs met from someone who does not even acknowledge you have needs or feelings. We must stop trying to get needs met from them. And that's the work that I do with clients, and help them to have and reduce those needs for the narcissistic parent. Number 4, working on taking care of your own needs. Begin to live as though the narcissistic parent doesn't exist or need to exist. It doesn't mean you don't want them to not exist, but to live as though they don't. We don't wish them ill. We don't want them to become unimportant and non-significant to us emotionally. Doing an intentional funeral for them, which I have another video on, I might suggest. Doing work to let them go internally, doing the grief work of letting go of a narcissistic parent, and doing the grief work for losing the parent we never had and always wanted. And then we stop orbiting the narcissistic parent. The parent becomes the sun that we orbit around. And we've done that all of our lives. How do we move out of that orbit? Number 5, if you have to deal with the narcissistic parent or work out some issues with a narcissistic parent, you may want to consider using a third party. Narcissistic parents don't like looking bad to others. They will often behave better with an audience. a therapist, a coach, a pastor, a mediator, a lawyer. They often will behave better because they don't want to be viewed as not behaving well in front of other people. So that might be a protection for you to use third parties. 6, stay away from triggers for them. Don't shame them. Now that's almost impossible because just saying hi to a narcissistic parent can trigger shame because they're exquisitely sensitive to shame. Working out your childhood hurts, past injustices, etc., just don't work with a narcissistic parent. Number one, they're not trying to hear it. Number two, they're not wanting to sit down and just have a heart-to-heart talk with you. Because it's just by even saying, hey, Mom, our family wasn't perfect growing up. That's all you need to say, and you've hit their shame. Now, all you've said is, and you've said all families are not perfect growing up. No family is perfect. But that doesn't matter. You said our family was not perfect, so therefore you're accusing me of something and not being adequate, not being the best parent, and then they go into their shame core. Again, work out those things with a professional. If you have hurts from the past and injustices, work that out with a professional, therapist, coach, pastor. Remember, being reasonable often does not work with a narcissistic parent. Being reasonable requires empathy, and they have little. So when you're expecting reasonableness, narcissistic parents are not the way to go. 7, narcissistic parents ignite anger and resentment and hurt, and resolve these feelings inside yourself. Though it's very frustrating when someone works with you, talks with you, just like the daughter at the wedding and the mother who it was all for her and not for the daughter. And then later the daughter feels resentful and anger that she didn't get to plan her wedding and do the wedding she wanted. She had to do exactly what her mom wanted. Well, then she's left with anger, resentment, and hurt. Don't work that out with a narcissistic mom. Work that out with a professional, because you're probably not going to get very far working it out with mom. 8, heal your destructive inner parent and your inner narcissistic parent. Oftentimes, we take on what we've learned from our parents growing up, and then we become that kind of a parent to ourselves. Often we've been criticized and our weakness is attacked by the narcissistic parent. This becomes internalized, and we're now very surgical in how we can turn ourselves on ourselves. And people turn themselves on themselves all the time. We don't realize that everyone has weaknesses, including us. And it's okay to have weaknesses. It's okay to make mistakes. Who doesn't? However, in a narcissistic home, that's not okay. Criticism they'll be always scanning in a narcissistic family. Scanning to see what can be criticized and what's not perfect and what's not right and what's not living up to the parents' acceptability standards. We all make mistakes, and we do not deserve to be shamed or rejected because we have made mistakes or are not perfect, or we're not superior, or we're not stellar. Heal your own shame and guilt triggers. Work on getting rid of that inner narcissistic parent that is destructive to us. 9, begin to learn not to accept the blame or criticism of others or narcissists in particular. All assessments and observations must go through my evaluator. I am an adult now. They don't go in directly without being processed. I must assess them first. When someone compliments me, I say thank you, but then I must assess whether that compliment is something I can relish in and enjoy. The same is true for the flip side of the coin. When someone criticizes me, I can say, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but it doesn't go in and become a part of me until I evaluate it first. Then I take it as, maybe that's something I need to work on. But it doesn't go in directly. And used to is a very strong and, and healthy codependent, if you said there was something wrong with me, then there was something wrong with me. Well, now I go, no, I listen to people who say there's something wrong with me, or a problem, or a mistake. I evaluate it, and then decide as an adult whether that applies, whether I care, or whether I should change something. That's all for me to decide. 10, don't interact with a narcissistic parent when you are feeling stressed, or feeling vulnerable, or feeling needy. Those are not the times to be interacting with the narcissistic parent. 11, as I've said before, don't have heart-to-heart talks with them. You will only be sharing more vulnerability, which will be only used against you in the future. I'm not saying you can't be yourself. I'm not saying you can't be authentic or who you are, but you need to be ready for who you are. You need to be ready for, if I share with someone who's a narcissist some weakness or failure for me, I do that after I'm ready to not care about how they feel about that. In other words, if I say to someone, I wasn't the best student in high school, or I wasn't the top swimmer in high school, or whatever, if you say that to a narcissist, they'll have all kinds of criticism or excuses or contempt or whatever. I need to be in a position where I really don't care whether you have criticism, contempt. It just bounces off. It doesn't matter. And so that's when I can be more open and honest with the narcissist. If you're not ready for that, then don't do that yet, because it's going to come your way. That negative is going to come your way. 12, change your emotional field, not the narcissist. Many times we're always trying to, well, if mom would only change, if dad would only change, if my sister would only change, if they would only change, and maybe if I do this, then they would change. Maybe if they got this help, we're hooked into, if we get them fixed, then I'll feel better. And I think that's a problem. We have to change our emotional field. I've got a couple that I've worked with in the past, and they came to me and were getting a divorce, and one parent is narcissistic and one parent is not. And the narcissistic parent is just horrible to the ex, to the estranged ex, and to the kids at times. And the wife was always engaged in trying to get her husband to stop and to change. Now her work is to focus on changing her and her emotional field and her emotional field with her kids, rather than fixing her husband or ex-husband, because that's not going to work well. We have to fix our own selves, and that will also be a real help to the kids, even though they have to deal with a narcissistic father from here on out. That's a father they're going to have to deal with. So they need as healthy a mother as possible. And that's what she's working on. 13, heal your narcissistic tractor beam. As an adult child of narcissistic parents, you attract narcissists in your life. Heal you, and this will stop. The tractor beam will stop. 14, self-differentiation work is the key to recovery for the adult child of narcissistic parents. I would really recommend you get into some books and work on self-differentiation. I have some resources for you if you'd like to write to me. If you would like to learn more about healing yourself, I'm a family systems expert, and I would be happy to send you some resources. I also see clients via Skype and FaceTime in the English-speaking world, or wherever you're at if you speak English, and on the phone and in my office. Contact me for an appointment. My contact information is on the screen. Please join our YouTube channel. I did want to add a couple of resources that might be of help to you. A favorite book of mine is Trapped in the Mirror by Elon Golem, and I really think that this is an excellent book. You might find it. You can find it on Amazon. It is Trapped in the Mirror: Adult Children of Narcissistics in Their Struggle for Self. A second book, and by the way, there are many good books out there, but here's a second book I like. Why Is It Always About You? The 7 Deadly Sins of Narcissism. And I really think it's a good resource. There's Disarming the Narcissist. There's a number of books out there, and you can find them. They're available. I would recommend you learning more about the illness of narcissism so that you can function in a more stable and healthy way. Again, thanks for watching today. Have a good day.
Hey, hi everybody. My name is Jerry Wise, and I'm the founder of Jerry Wise Relationship Systems. I hope you'll go to my website of that name and check out the things that are on my website. I hope you'll join this YouTube channel also, and also click and join and become one of the members on this YouTube channel. It's very inexpensive. It helps support the work that I'm trying to do. It helps provide more free videos for you. Click the bell also if you want to be notified of each new video that comes up. I've been a life and relationship coach for many years. I was a former social worker, therapist, marriage and family therapist, pastoral counselor, pastor, and have spent years helping people and trying to help people to achieve a sense of self-differentiation using a Bowen family systems theory approach, which is a very deep well to draw from. And I would recommend you doing some research or reading in that area. One of the great books is Jenny Brown's Growing Yourself Up, is based on a family systems perspective. I think you would like that book. And especially for the audience that I'm going to be talking to today, in which this video is entitled, The Golden Child, the Golden Victim. The golden child is the role some are assigned in a dysfunctional family to provide the distraction from the family pain, the family dysfunction, the family worthlessness feelings. The golden child makes the family look normal without the problems. The golden child is the MVP of the family, the most valuable player. The golden child is the conforming one, the over-responsible one, the self-sufficient one. Often they are perfectionistic, and they must be perfectionistic to stay in their role as a golden child. They're the overachiever. They look good on the outside. They achieve the family definition of success. They can do no wrong. Goodness is projected onto them. Misdemeanors are glossed over or ignored. They get the car, the clothes, the schooling, the inheritance, the gifts, the special treatment from the family and from the parents. And of course, this leads to more dysfunction in the family. Dysfunction leads to more dysfunction. And so now what happens when we have this golden child is we now have created sibling rivalry. Many siblings despise the golden child, but it is a false rivalry. It's a rivalry set up by the family dysfunction and often is not real at all. And I've seen many siblings that I've worked with where the scapegoat and the golden child ally become closer and break the rivalry that has been engineered by the family emotional field and becoming friends. And the golden child begins to shed their role. The scapegoat begins to shed their role. And then they find, we could have gotten along just fine. And probably would have if we had not have had the roles that were projected onto us. The golden child have few boundaries and lack a true self-identity. For the golden child, it can be harder to see or gain insight or recover than I think even for the scapegoat. The scapegoat is in pain, and the scapegoat sees often the problems in the family. The golden child is engineered, programmed, and enmeshed to not see the problems in the family, or to gloss them over, or to make them be better than they were. And again, their perspective is clouded by this good and favored status. And sometimes that can be harder to break and harder to maybe hit bottom. And we're going to talk about a hit bottom for the golden child here soon. And lastly, the golden child, sadly, can actually become narcissistic and become a narcissist. Not all golden children are narcissists. Many are not. I would say a small portion become true narcissists. That role is a very powerful role, and I think there are some who will misdiagnose that as narcissism. But there's a difference between the neurotic role of golden child and the personality disorder that a golden child has. Those are two different perspectives and two different causes for behavior. One can think they're special because they've been projected as being special, but don't feel special deep down. The other, the narcissistic golden child, believes they truly are special, and it's not a projected role. This is actually who I am, and I want everyone to value that. What I'm going to be talking about today is the role of golden child, not the narcissistic traits or narcissistic personality golden child. The golden child receives special treatment, but he or she lacks the unconditional love or detached love that produces a healthy adult. The golden child is similar to the scapegoat in that they receive the projected and hoped for success, value, achievement, and wonderfulness that they lack. The scapegoat gets the family badness and the golden child gets the family goodness. Both are false. Both are not real. They are projected onto them. They are roles. These roles or mantles, I call them mantles, something you wear, are always problematic and cause problems in adulthood, in careers, in relationships, in intimacy, friendships, spiritual and financial problems. For example, let's say financial problems. The scapegoat may underfunction and lack in financial resources, and this causes great pain for the scapegoat, because they have to live in an underfunctioning role and thus will be in poverty or barely making it or having a hard time making it. The golden child may have lots of money, lots of success, great career, but tries to find happiness in it. And that is very painful. It is also a false mission. It is a myth that we can find happiness in those things. So that also creates, and they feel they need to make more, do more, have a greater career, go up higher. And if they do that, they'll be happy. That's very painful and dysfunctional as well, because you're searching for a happiness in that it doesn't exist. And it's a false mission or pilgrimage. Roles or mantles always restrict our ability to be our true selves. Often golden children live their lives never feeling they have done enough, succeeded enough, gotten love enough, nor loved themselves enough. Because like their scapegoat counterpart, their view of themselves is external, not internal. It's imposed, not authentic or chosen. Now again, the narcissist, it's not imposed. It becomes their personality. for the narcissist. But for the good old neurotic golden child, it's an imposed role or view of themselves, which they themselves have not chosen. It's been ascribed to them. The golden child lives externally to be good. Often the scapegoat is given up trying to be good. The golden child lives externally to be good, better, bring goodness, success, or positive regard to the family. And again, you see how it's very de-selfing, because I'm doing it all for these. I want this family to look good. I want this. It's not about them. It's about others. They overvalue their position of the family in one's life. They overvalue the position of the family in one's life. They overvalue the family. Often they will try to convince others, convince siblings of the goodness of the family, or the goodness of the parents, or the goodness of their childhood experience. Oh my, you had a wonderful childhood, Mary. Mary's the scapegoat. Betty is the golden child. We had great parents. We couldn't have had a happier family. And Mary's going, what family did you grow up in? And again, the golden child wants to convince them of that goodness. The family is good. The family is great. It's not dysfunctional, because they live in the denial of their role, and they live in the denial of the family. The golden child role is a false system-projected persona. If you happen to be a golden child, and I think there are many who are out there, also I want to say there are many roles can change over time. Golden children can become scapegoats. Occasionally a scapegoat can become a golden child for a while. So roles can be there can be some fluidity in them. I've experienced that myself. If you happen to be a golden child, recovery will take work in these areas. We probably will need to begin to hit bottom. At some point, we will hit bottom. When we hit bottom, embrace the breakdown when it happens. When the role starts to shatter, when the reality starts to shatter, when you start to see the family truly as it was, that's a very big breakdown a golden child can have. Embrace it. It's the beginning of true self and true life and true love. Second of all, we'll have to work on perfectionism. The either or, it's either bad or good. Well, maybe it's just good enough. Maybe it's just mediocre, and that's good enough. I remember in one of my master's programs, I had such difficulty finishing the thesis because I couldn't make it perfect enough. I couldn't make it good enough. And my Bowen Family Systems supervisor said, Jerry, just do a mediocre thesis and then you'll graduate. And I hadn't thought about that why don't I just do one that was good enough? And then interestingly, I had a number of people who researched my thesis because it had a certain history about an event they found it very profound because they had not found that history anywhere, and they found it in my thesis. Totally unexpected. I thought they would be interested in some other part. So you never know what's going to happen. It's okay to be mediocre and still be loved and still be happy. The golden child doesn't know that until they have their breakdown. Overfunctioning is another thing golden children will have to work on. Overfunction, comply, overfunction, comply, see the good, help others see the good. That's the consistent mission of the golden child. The golden child will also will need to work on a real self versus a role self. We have lived in that role a good part of our lives. We don't know what a real self is. Just like a scapegoat doesn't know what a real self is. A mascot doesn't know what a real self is. The role of lost child doesn't know what a real self is. The role of enabler doesn't know what who the real self is. No one in the family knows what a real self is. The golden child will need to increase tolerance for others' feelings of disappointment. That's a tough one. Can I endure the disappointment of others when I don't live up to their expectations? Can I let them feel their feelings without me fixing, changing, perfecting them or it or the situation? Can I raise my tolerance for their disappointment? That's really tough for the golden child. The golden child will need to work on seeing that over positive attention is as unhealthy as over negative attention. The golden child lives in a golden and beautiful cage. The scapegoat lives in a dirty and ugly cage, but they both live in cages. The golden child will work and need to work to recover, learning how to not conform, and also even learn how to create some harmless trouble. I teach people how to cause trouble. I don't wish to teach anyone to hurt someone, but we're playing with the system's feelings, not playing with them in a trying to hurt somebody way, but we're using the system's feelings to grow ourselves and to self-differentiate. And here's an example of creating some trouble, because the golden child never creates trouble. The scapegoat always creates trouble. So I try to help the scapegoat be truly good in their own self, and the golden child be somewhat bad, but not in a moral way, not in a hurtful way. For example, a golden child task in recovery might be, okay, I want you to create some trouble. What would be some harmless trouble that you could create with your family? Not go to a family event. Oh, okay, because you would always be there, you would always show up, and you'd always arrive. So just by you choosing not once will create some trouble, but it's harmless because it doesn't have to hurt anyone, doesn't have to. Now, I assure you, there will be some who will feel hurt, but that's not you causing it. Because the family will feel hurt. Oh, why didn't you come to our dinner? You've always come to our dinner. You must always come to our dinner. What's wrong with you? Our family is missing its goodness, so to speak. And that's actually why the hurt comes up, because it is to pull you to resolve my hurt, and you show up the next time or even this time. The golden child is not making them feel hurt. It is harmless because they could feel confused versus hurt. A healthier family would feel confused rather than hurt. A more immature family, non-self-differentiated family, would feel hurt or need to shame the golden child or guilt the golden child. But a healthier family would go, I'm not sure I understand that. I mean, Jerry has a right not to come, but I'm not sure I understand. That's a healthier family. And then even a healthier family yet would say, Jerry, you don't have to come to any event if you don't want to. That's up to you. I missed you very much. I love you. That's a higher tier family health. Because they could feel confused rather than hurt, but choose to feel hurt in an unconscious way to pressure you to conform. But remember, you are not making them feel hurt. Hurt is a part of the family system's feelings. And I want to do a video on not reacting to systems feelings in others. Don't react to systems feelings, but react to true self feelings. the system's feelings of hurt, shame, guilt, abandonment. Many of those are systems feelings, and we react to them when actually they're false feelings. They're not real. They're not what's really happening. I want to read something very quickly from the Golden Child Syndrome from the School of Life website. There's no author attributed, so I can't share that with you, but I wanted to share their website. If I ever share something from other sources, I like to give them credit. The golden child may wind up mentally unwell, and not so much because we were ignored or maltreated, but because we were loved with a distinctive and troubling overintensity, because we were praised for capacities that we did not possess and could not identify with, and because we were asked with apparent kindness, but underlying unwitting manipulation, to shoulder the hopes and longings of the carers rather than our own deep selves. The golden child, deeply down, is looking to be accepted and loved for who he or she is. The golden child, over time, destined for a moment of breakdown, when the hopes invested in it fail to be realized, the golden child is freed to enjoy a momentous truth when we have this breakdown, that a life does not need to be golden in order to be valuable, that we can live in baser metal forms, in pewter or iron, and still be worthy of love and adequate self-esteem. I want to thank you for joining me today. If you'd like help as a golden child, me or one of my associates would be happy to be of help to you and work with you one-on-one. You can contact me at my website. Please join this YouTube channel. We want to provide more videos and more free videos for folks. If you can donate to my website, or you can write to me if you'd like to do that. If you'd like to have a video produced on a topic that you would like, and you'd like to donate, and I could make a video for you. I certainly hope you've been helped by today's message and by today's work. I want to thank you for joining me today and spending your time with me. Have a great day.